Hi guys, welcome back to math. Today we are going to be talking about Pythagorean theorem. So we're going to input this into our journal. We're on, feels like forever since we've taken notes. Pythagorean theorem. And this is on page 37. And we are on Pythagorean theorem. We're on page 37. Okay, before we can get into the Pythagorean theorem, which I know is a big word that you've probably not, I don't think you guys talked about it in 7th grade. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure you did not get here. So before we can talk about Pythagorean theorem, though, we have to go back and look at some exponents, because you're going to need to make sure that you know squares and square roots, a perfect square. Okay, so if I know that I have a square, okay, and I know that all sides are the same, all sides are equal, okay, and this side is 2, and this side is 2. How do I find the area? The area of a squared is equal to the side squared, or base times height, right? Okay, but it's squared because they're the same. Okay, so 2 times 2 is equal to 2 squared, which is equal to 4. Okay, that means that it's a perfect square. That means that the sides are all the same. Okay, so I know that 2 squared is equal to 4. It's a perfect square. 3 squared is equal to 9. Okay, 4 squared is equal to 16. 5 squared is equal to 25, and so on, right? That's the square. Well, the opposite of a square is square roots. Okay, so if I have square, the opposite is square root. Okay, so remember when we're solving equations, I tell you that you always have to do the opposite to solve it. You're always doing the opposite. So you have to know that square, the opposite is square root. This is not division, it's a radical. It's square root. Okay, so that's very important for us to know. Okay. Pythagorean theorem is a formula that will tell the distance of a hypotenuse of a right triangle. Okay, this only deals with right triangles. So let's first talk about right triangles. A right triangle has a right angle. Okay, it has a right angle. Okay, so this is not a right triangle because there are no right angles. This is also not a right triangle because there's no right angles. Okay, so these are not right triangles. A right triangle has a right angle. Okay. The two angles, or the two sides that are next to the right angles, are called legs. Okay? And our legs, they are the two sides adjacent, which means next to, the right angle. Okay, they're the two sides adjacent to the right angle. And we label these A and B. So this is A and this is B. And then the side opposite of the right angle, okay, it's opposite of the right angle, is called the hypotenuse. Okay, it's called the hypotenuse. The hypotenuse is opposite the right angle it is the longest side. Okay, it's the longest side of this right triangle, and we label it with the letter C. Okay, so this one is C. So when I have a right triangle, okay, it's labeled A, B, C. Pythagorean theorem says that we can find the hypotenuse by adding the squares of the two legs. Okay, so what that means is that if I have A squared, whatever side A squared is, plus whatever the side length for B squared is, will equal C squared. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem says A squared plus B squared is going to be equal to C squared. A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. So let's do a couple of examples. Okay. Let's say this is 4 and this is 6. Okay, 4 and 6. I want to know what this side length is. Okay, so Pythagorean theorem says A squared plus B squared is equal to C squared. Okay, so 4 squared plus 6 squared is going to be equal to C squared. To solve this, to figure out what the C is, I'm going to go to my calculator. I'm going to do 4. This little x squared button will square it. 4 squared plus 6 squared is equal to 52, and that's equal to C squared. If I want to get C alone, remember I have to do the opposite. So C is going to be equal to the square root of 52. So now I do second x squared, because it's the opposite, 52 is equal to 7.2. So C is equal to 7.2. I'm gonna flip that over and go onto the back here, and we're gonna try another one. And then I'm gonna show you a shortcut just to do this, okay? So example number 2, I have a right triangle. Okay. And we're gonna say that this is 5, and this is 8, and I wanna know the hypotenuse. Pythagorean theorem says a squared plus b squared is equal to c squared. So I'm going to do 5 squared plus 8 squared equals c squared. Now, in my calculator, I know that here I'm going to find the square root, or find the squares, find the square, okay, and then to solve it, I take the square root. So in your calculator, you can kind of skip a step because you have a calculator. You can do second x squared. So we're going to take the square root of 5 squared plus 8 squared. And it gives us our answer, 9.4. C, so this is saying the square root, C is equal to the square root of 5 squared plus 8 squared. Remember, you can put it into your calculator just like that. So C is equal to 9.4. All right, I'm going to let you try some on your own.